Well, the tech ecosystem, one of the challenges that we face, or we are beginning to face, it wasn't so in the past, in the olden days, so to speak, is that we are also becoming speculative in nature. And actually, recessions, booms, and busts, a lot of times, though may be natural phenomena, but they are accelerated when people are speculating, not just without data, without substance.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, in truth, I may have built something that's good, but then I overhype it and I say that it's going to change the world. And as a result of that, we overvalue it. And as a result of that, we create fictitious wealth that's actually not backed up by real value. Now, those are some of the factors that accelerate recession. Ecosystem, and this is very difficult to push. Because now we realize that tech is business. In the past, tech was more like hobby for so many people who just wanted to change their environment and wanted to do something nice.
Different.
So a good number of them different and nicer. So a good number of them were probably not in it to make money. They were just in it to make impact and change their environment. But turns out that many people have seen that the opportunities to make money is very large in tech. And so there's a lot of unscrupulous activities also being asked is how possible is it for us to stop those who are speculating? It's nearly impossible. Because the issue, and as you are beginning to notice, that today, the real guys that create value for tech, who are the guys who are the brain boxes, they are not really the owners anymore. So you have a number of people who identify these smart people and put some money behind them. They are the real owners. And then they know how to paint the narrative.
Hype it.
And they hype it. And these are the problems that we are having. I think that, and it's very difficult to say this, that we should, rather than think of creating short-term wealth or creating short-term bubbles, we should be more mindful of humanity and come up with solutions that actually make this world a better place.
Not make you money.
Not make money at the expense of people who are not as endowed intellectually as we are. Remember, I made that statement during the conference we had with NIPS from the central bank. That one of the things I've observed is that you see, you have some very brilliant guys all over the world. They went to the best schools. They went to the Harvards, Stanfords, Oxfords. They are intelligent people. They are a lot more intelligent than 99% of the human population. But unfortunately, rather than they using that intelligence that God has given them, and the reason why God gave them, they think it's for them to become rich. They didn't realize that why God gave them this intelligence is to come and represent Him on earth, to make this world a better place. So what these guys do is use this intelligence that has been freely given to them by God, virtually to defraud
The world.
And they have the power to do so, they have money, they have media, and there are so many people that are simply not capable of unraveling whatever these people say. They are not geared, they are not endowed, they are not programmed to even ask questions. So once they hear, oh, Mr. Laka said it, oh, Mr. Laka is the one that said it. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Laka is not God. So these are people that are very difficult to appeal to, because a whole lot of them have also become junkies. They've collected monies from other people, they promised them returns, and the only way these returns that they have painted will ever come is by continuing to blow bigger bubbles. I think that's a real big issue as bedeviling humanity. Now, I'm not saying that to sound like a pastor or anything, but I'm just saying that can we cool down the temperature a little bit and create real solutions to present problems and imagine a future that's better than this and begin to create such opportunities. Those are the things that I think tech has responsibility to the world for.
Wow. A lot. Let me just recap from short-term bubbles that has no long-term value. People with intelligence who, instead of using intelligence to replicate God's magnanimity, are using it to defraud. Not taking cognizance of creating real value instead of just wealth or just money or so. Okay. Thank you, sir. The second question it's more Nigerian based. It says Fintech is about 67% of the supposed tech development corridor in Nigeria, according to some new figures. I've forgotten where I'm saying.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
It could be very correct.
And it serves just below 10% of the 200 million Nigerians. What should we be teaching prospective software developers?
Again, it still boils down to
The first, yes.
And unfortunately, when we even discuss fintech in Nigeria,
There's a lot of ambiguity.
if you look at the fintech landscape very carefully.
I don't even understand what it means again, so let me just.
No, I will define it. So, for proper understanding of the concept.
Yes.
Basically, what fintechs do is try to render banking services using technologies. Period. That's what we generally come to accept as fintech. But when you look at fintech, the landscape very well in Nigeria, if you follow the money, data with the money, right, you realize that more than 70%, right, are in payments. Only less than 30% is doing any other thing.
Maybe 20% of that.
Other than payments. Some of them are doing lending. But if you take out lending, take out payments, probably have less than 5% innovation.
That's where I'm going to. Yeah.
But in truth, banking is a lot beyond that. So what we realize is that why so much is going on, and so what's going on, just like rightly said by the statistics, is that there's balkanization of that space.
Yeah.
So I come in with something and I'm virtually just trying to cut into the space that other players are already in.
Place is already saturated.
That's why you say it's serving less than 10%. No, we are already, when people paint narratives that, oh yes, it's going to lead to financial inclusion, they are only doing that so that they can get some subsidy or support from governments. They themselves know in their heart of hearts that there's no inclusion in anything like that. All right. So, and one of the things I've said is that I might be very wrong, but this is my understanding. There's very little innovation going on in that space. Let me be honest with you. What is any payment company doing that NIPS has not already done?
What is different is the nomenclature.
So all of us are just trying to do the same thing
in a shinier
way. And then we are using political clout sometimes to corner some types of markets for our own. But in terms of innovation, not much is going on. And I want us to understand that, ordinarily speaking, real value comes from innovation. So without see people abandoning that real call, that real calling for innovation, and we're just trying to get into the money space. And that explains why, it's impossible for us to serve the other 90%. Because the other 90% you are talking about are economically excluded. And absolutely, I've said this several times. And I don't know why people make this sound like rocket science. That it's impossible to financially include someone that's economically excluded. You must make the person economically included before you can talk about financially including it. But to make people become economically included, it's not business, it's hard work.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, it is these intelligent people that God has given the capability to make this 90% economically included. But just as long as they are all running after this golden fleece that's going to vaporize someday, those 90% would never achieve the potential that God wants them to achieve. So I think the real issue, to my mind, is the solution. To my mind, is we need God. And I'm not saying that to throw up my arms and say there's nothing we can do. God will never come down. But the day we have strong leaders who understand the intention of God for their position and who are willing to pay the price, you will see a reversal. Yeah, you see, that's a good question. And if I try to unpack that, it will become a lecture series of sorts.
Okay.
But we don't have time for that. You see, all these things boil down to two words: value system. And how are value systems created? They start by mythology, oral tradition, example. You see, where fella teacher don't teach me nonsense. But when you follow that song, it says, who is government's teacher? Yeah. Because government is at the helm of affairs. But the answer he gave was correct. Culture and tradition. So you see that this conversation we are having, to achieve it, that's why I said it's not beans. We go down to the value system. What do we tell our children on dinner tables? Are people even sitting on dinner tables anymore with their children? And these are the things we are discussing. What examples are we creating of superstars? Who are the heroes that we are painting? So you see, just as long as we as a nation have not come to a concerted strategy,
Great. That value system.
to determine exactly and to say that those that will ever be considered heroes
in this land
are people that create actual value. And we will define what actual value means to solving problems that make your neighbors better people. Then everybody will continue running that. I want to make money, I want to make money, either I kill somebody or I do whatever is allowed. And I was fascinated in a program in FITC recently, and I said, there's ethics, there's morality, there's legality. So there are some things that are ethically wrong, but are legally right. And they are legally right because there's no explicit law that says you can't do them. So there are lacunas. You say that organically says, show me which law says I can't do it. But your conscience knows
that you're doing the wrong thing,
that you shouldn't do some of these things. We need to come to that position when we have leadership. That's why I say, see, leadership is about the next generation. And I have always said this. And it's not just the generations to come. Where we decide this is who we are as a people. We are a people intrinsically creating value. And when we create value, we expect to benefit. But we create value not because we want to benefit, but because it makes the society better.
And because it's our nature.
Because it's our nature. Now let me tell you what happens. When that happens, it becomes a virtuous cycle, where you will create value and you will eat part of it. But you will also have benefited from value that other people have created. Now, when you have a society like that, all right, your problems are very little. Now, again, I don't intend to preach, but everything I do is guided 100% by the principles of the Bible. So they went to ask Jesus Christ, Master, what is the big commandment? What's the big commandment? Jesus said to them, Thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your might, and with all your strength. Love of God. So the second is like it. You will love your neighbor as yourself. But you know the conclusion that he made. So there's no commandment that is better than this. And on these two commandments hang all the law and prophets. So you see, this Bible is so simple, yet so complex. So you see, we need to come to a point where we define who we really are. It's hard work. We are not just following money. We will create money, we will create wealth simply because it's a byproduct of creating value. But you know the funny thing? We're just a bunch of funny animals. You see, there's a video that, I'm sure you saw that video, it went viral last year. I think it was last year, maybe this year. That somebody was giving the monkey. The monkey sat down and was giving the monkey, was it cookies or?
Through the net.
No, sat down.
Okay, yeah.
And the monkey was looking behind. So when he would eat, and then because he didn't want to share, invariably, all the ones he even had in the ads were dropping. The point I'm making is that how much does a man really need to be comfortable? You see, the resources that we have, particularly in Africa, is much more that can sustain us. It's a lot more that can sustain us. We can't exhaust it.
Should be sustaining the world.
You and I went to the same school. I was having a gist with my wife yesterday. I just started laughing. She said, what? In the middle of the around 1 a.m. I just started laughing. And she said, why are you laughing? I said, I remember my secondary school. And then I started telling her some jokes that some of our friends, when they come to the house, cracked. I said, you know, this was a school where they spent good money to take care of us. The food that they would bring to the dining every day, you and I know that it was always more than enough.
But we still rush it.
But we still rush. Remember.
Rush and not.
And we will rush and we will break, and at the end of the day, some people will not have, some people will have more than, and then the majority of it will even be destroyed. That is, don't be juju with that.
I'm serious, juju, sir.
So it's the system. That's the system that we are actually running.
Total failure.
Exactly. So people are. That's exactly what is going on. It's a baboon. We are not very different from them.
Oh, good.
Until we come to the point where we realize the reason why God put us here, and we decide that we want to act according to that, the entire world will continue to gyrate.
That was the first edition of Yele's Monotone. Please join us again.